Rising up, please. Thank you very much. We may have our seats. Sure, it's quite hot in here. We will run it, It's quite hot. Good morning to everyone. Allow me to apologize for a late start, but everything is still in order. Chief SANDF, permission to continue, sir. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you very much. I welcome everyone this morning to witness yet another historical moment with us here in Richards Bay on behalf of the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, and obviously acknowledging our host, the district mayor, and the mayor of Umhlathuze. I'll go through the protocol list for now. Allow me also to go through acknowledgement of our senior officials and the leadership of the military who are here. To start with the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Mapyanya, the Chief of Staff, Lieutenant General Ramanswana, the Chief of the South African Army, Lieutenant General Mbata, the Chief of the South African Air Force, Lieutenant General Mbambo, the Chief of the South African Navy, Admiral Lubisi, who's the main executor of this Armed Forces Day, Chief Joint Operations, Lieutenant General Sangweni, Sergeant General, Lieutenant General Mapaha. There's a mistake on the media. They always say Lieutenant General Mahapa, and no, it's Mapaha, not Mahapa. So there's a difference between the two. And also allow me to acknowledge the Chaplain General present, and also in the absentia, the Sergeant Major of the Defence Force who's not with us this morning. And also let me acknowledge the Head of Communication, Mr. Dlamini, not forgetting most two important senior officials, the District Mayor, Councillor Ntuli, and Mayor of Umhlathuze, Councillor Ngwezi. We are very, very honored for you to welcome us in your yard. Thank you very much for your hospitality. We truly appreciate that. Not forgetting the chairperson of the Spouses Forum, Mrs. Mapyanya, and most importantly, members of the media, as you are our force multiplier, if I may say, officers present and admirals. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I'm Brigadier General Andries Mukwena Mahapa. Let's cancel the name Andries. I'm Brigadier General Mukwena Mahapa. That's it. Before we commence, it's a tradition in our Defence Force that before we do anything else, we need to invite the superpower to be in our midst for grace and guidance. Please, Chaplain General, can you come forth to lead us, please?
Morning, Chief. Allow me this morning to greet the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, all the members of PDSC, MCC, and all other military members that are currently with us, the Spouses Forum, the members of media and all other guests, and not forgetting the two mayors that are with us this morning. Good morning, everybody. Just a reflection on the Gospel of St. Luke, chapter 16, reading from verse 7. Very interesting quote this morning. Suppose one of you has a servant who is plowing or looking after the sheep. When he comes in from the field, do you tell him to hurry along and eat his meal? Or, of course not. Instead, you say to him, get my supper ready, then put on your apron and wait on me while I eat and drink. After that, you may have your meal. The servant does not deserve thanks for obeying orders, does he? It is the same with you. When you have done all you have been told to do or say, we are ordinary servants. We have only done our duty. I want to repeat this verse. We have only done what is our duty. I think I want to say to those who are going to be with us throughout this week as we display the capabilities of our defense force. These are men and women, the only that you'll find. And this is not only South Africa, but worldwide, people who say, we give our lives in serving others with no expectation of a reward. So this week we are going to demonstrate servanthood. We're going to demonstrate what it is to be a soldier that says, send me, and I'll not question, and I'll go and execute. And here the example that Christ is giving is to say, a servant never even says, what is my reward? When we are done with this exercise, at the end, we will be saying to the beautiful country, South Africa, here we are as your servants. You can go to bed and be assured that you're safe, because the servants, who is your defense force, will ensure that you're safe. But as I conclude, I want to say, all of us here are called to be servants. What is killing us, if you look across, where people are living, we want to be rewarded. May we be those who say, I will serve, even without a reward, because I'm doing it for God's people. Let us pray. Allow us, Lord, as we start today, to demonstrate our servanthood as the defense force. That this be the day where the world will know that there are those whom you have chosen to work and to give up their lives for others, and without looking for any reward. Today, this defense force is saying to the world and to the entire members of this country, we are here to serve. We will serve, giving up everything that we have, because you have set us apart. Bless this occasion and every member that is gathered here. In your precious name we pray. Amen. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Chaplain General Mashweu. Indeed, we are a servant. That's why we are here today to commemorate the Armed Forces Day as a demonstration to South Africans that the Defense Force, we are here to serve the people of South Africa, not for selfish gain, but for everyone who's living in South Africa. So that, like the Chief SANDF normally say, Defense Force is here to assure that when you sleep, you must have that dream, and then you must not be disturbed when you are sleeping, knowing that the SANDF is there protecting you while you are sleeping. That's what you normally say. So I'm stealing those words, Chief SANDF, sir. Before we continue, I think it will be proper for me to call Captain Ngiti to come and give us the safety in terms of the ship where we are, and then we'll take it from there. Captain, sir.
Good morning, Admirals, Generals, I'm Captain Spiwengeti, the Officer Commanding of SAS Mende. I'm just going to give you a few considerations that you need to keep in mind for the duration of your visit on board here today. If you look on the deck, you're going to see some strong points which have got holes in them, specifically for those people that are wearing high heels or pointy shoes. So please be careful when you're walking through the ship to make sure that you do not trip and fall. The heads or the toilets, the bathrooms, they are situated on the first deck. All the doors are open, so we're just going to transit through here. You're going to see on the left-hand side, the first one is going to be written, it's written females, and then the second one is written males. If you have any issue of getting lost, please contact you, because there's going to be us here around to assist you if you do get lost. The first indication that you are getting lost is when you have to go up or down the stairs, because everything is situated here. So please, if you see yourself having to go up or down the stairs, just raise a hand, then we're going to assist you. The second issue, there is no smoking allowed on board. We're going to use either that gangway or the brow or that one so that you can go and proceed on to the quay and smoke the should you require to smoke. In case of a flood or fire alarm on board, please do not be alarmed. I'm going to be here to assist you. No need to panic. We're going to use that gangway for the gentlemen and ladies that are sitting on this side, and then for the, I cannot call the generals gentlemen and ladies, for the generals and senior officers sitting on this side to proceed on the other side. You're going to be assisted to go there. If there's any assistance required, please feel free to call on me, then I'm going to assist you. Chief Navy, please, SAS Mende, your ship.
Thank you very much, Captain. You know, some of us, it's the first time to be in a ship like this. I was here a couple of days back, then I smelled mohodu. Then I asked the captain, where is your kitchen? And then he said, in the boat there's no kitchen, it's called the galley. So yeah, so now I know there's a galley, so at least I know something. But I enjoyed mohodu that particular day. Thank you very much, Captain, for that. Now, allow me to introduce my panel before we start the business of the day. I'll start with the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Mapianya. On the far left is the Chief of Staff of the South African National Defence Force, Lieutenant General Ramanswana. On the right of the Chief SANDF is the Chief of the Navy, Admiral Lubisi. As I indicated to you, that is the main executor of the AFD. And then we have on the left of the Chief of Staff, the Executive Mayor, the District Mayor, Executive Mayor, Councillor Ntuli. Thank you very much, sir. And then Umhlatuzi, Councillor Ngwezi. Thank you very much, sir. Those are the panel in particular to the media. One may ask a question, what are we doing here? I think that is the big question. What are we doing here? We are here solely for one purpose in terms of commemoration of the Armed Forces Day, abbreviated AFD. It's an annual commemorative event whereby as SANDF we take pride for men and women serving in the Defence Force, supplemented by technological capabilities of our armed forces. Not forgetting and appreciating to thank those who fell with their boots on while saving the nation of South Africa. Most importantly, as a defense force, we are bringing the defense force to the people of South Africa because it belongs to the people of South Africa. I quote the SANDF Chief again. He normally say this defense force belongs to the people of South Africa. That's why we are bringing it to the people. Because most people, they see the defense force from the distant. So especially we need to bring it to the people so that they can interact with us. Because we are from the community as well. We are part of the community. We are parents and we are children to our parents. So that they can feel, touch and lick this equipment to say this is part of our defense force. Take pride in it. That's why we are here as a defense force. We are reaching out to everyone in the name of being patriotic. We see that it's lacking in our country. I think we can use this instrument of the Defence Force to encourage that everyone needs to be patriotic here in South Africa. Once we do that, I'm of the opinion that the economy, the corruption, the crime will go down. Instrument of the SANDF to push that agenda. In particular, the upcoming operations that we must enjoy the stability if there's a patriotic within South Africa and peace. Because once we have that, then we are of the opinion that everything will be settled down. Things will be normal again. But as it is now, things are haywire. But we are glad we have the Defence Force for the people. When the Commander-in-Chief call upon the Defence Force has never failed. It's always on the ground. You bear testimony to that as a media. We are always there making a change to the people's life. Now, we are going through the sequence of events. How is it going to unfold? We'll have the opening remarks by the Chief of the Navy, followed by the opening speech of the Chief of the South African National Defence Force. Then we'll have a short presentation by Captain Kumalo in terms of the events relating to Armed Forces Day. And then we'll have a brief summary in terms of the part of the leg within the AFD, Armed Forces Day, that we pride ourselves as a Defence Force. We refer to as Project Awetu. I think you have read so much about it. It's on the media almost on a daily basis by the SG himself, SG General Mapaha, not Mahapa. And then that will be the end of the session where the Chief of SANDF will close. Prior to doing that, there's no way that we can come into the house of the district without them having a word or two in terms of what does this AFD mean to this area, Umhlatuzi, the district and the local municipality, because they are hosting us. We are really honored that they are here with us. They took time out of their busy schedule to share this historic moment with us. That will be the sequence of events before the Chief of SANDF close, and then we'll have a remark by the district mayor. That's that. May I now invite the Chief of the Navy to open the session for us. Chief Navy, sir.
Thank you, Program Director. Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Maponya, Chief of Joint Operations, Lieutenant General Sangweni, Chief of the Army, Lieutenant General Mbata, Chief of the Air Force, Lieutenant General Mbambo, Sergeant General, Lieutenant General Mapaha, His Worship, the Mayor of King Tejoyo District Municipality, Councillor Nduli, His Worship, the Mayor of Umhlatuzi Local Municipality, Councillor Ngwezi, His Worship, the Speaker of Umhlatuzi Local Municipality, Councillor Kumedo, Generals and Flag Officers, Senior Chief Warrant Officer of the South African Navy, Master Mulefe, Sergeant Majors of the Service and Divisions, ladies and gentlemen, and to our most important guest, the media, happy Valentine's Day to all of you today. I hope you remember to call your significant other today. To the beautiful spouses forum members that are seated here with us today, under the leadership of Mrs. Mapanya, good morning. It is my singular honor to welcome you all here to the fighting ship SAS Mendi. It is most fitting indeed that we host this media launch for the 2023 Armed Forces on board the ship. She was named to honor the sacrifice and the bravery of the 616 members of the Native Labour Corps that sank on a cold winter morning 106 years ago. The SS Mendi was underway to France, when she was struck at 0500, that is at 5 a.m. in the morning, in dense fog, a distance of 19 kilometers south of St. Catherine's Point on the Isles of Wight. The ship who collided with the SS Darrow was many times her size and never even sounded her fog horn to announce her presence. The SS Mendi stood no chance and sank within 25 minutes. The naval tragedies is nothing strange in a war. However, what made the story of SS Mendi so memorable was not only the large number of men who perished, but the manner in which they perished. Can you imagine the scene? You are woken up with a terrible loud noise. The darkness is all around you. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. Everyone is shouting. Some are cursing, some are praying loud, some are even crying. You struggle from your belly of the strange ship to the deck. Very quickly, the deck of the ship you are standing on is starting to tilt to one side, and you don't know what is going on around you. In this scene of chaos and fear, you hear a clear voice ringing over the nose who says, I quote, "Be quiet and calm, my countrymen. What is happening now is what you came to do. You are going to die, but that is what you came to do. Brothers, we are drilling the death drill. I, a closer, say you are my brothers, Swazis, Bondos, Basotos. So let us die like brothers. We are the sons of Africa. Raise your war cries, brothers, for though they made us leave our sechais in the kraal, our voices are left with our bodies." These were the words that oral history from the survivors tell us that was said by the Reverend Isaac Joba on that fateful morning. The survivors said that the men removed their boots and danced to the death drill, barefoot, until the waves crashed over them. A total of 607 members of the South African Native Labour Corps died that day, along with 9 white officers and 31 of the crew. 87 of these heroes came from right here in KwaZulu-Natal. Other examples of bravery of that day included that of Joseph Chita, a teacher from the Tshwane region who encouraged the men around him in the water with hymns and prayers until they died from the terrible cold water. The South African Navy has honored the heroism shown on this terrible day by naming 2 of our ships, South African ship Isaac Joba and South African ship Mendi, after this tragedy. Not only is the Armed Forces Day held each year to commemorate the SS Mendi tragedy, but also to honor those members of the South African National Defence Force who since 1994 have perished ultimately service to the country by losing their lives in military operations. Armed Forces Day also pays tribute to other members who, even before 1994, paid the ultimate sacrifice in service to their country. Professional militaries across the world pay homage to their honored deceased and make sure that their sacrifice in service to the country and their people are never forgotten. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, allow me to give you some background about the arrangements of this year's Armed Forces Day, of which the SA Navy is the lead service. Responsible for the planning and execution of this event, we as the SA Navy started quite early with our planning in March 2022. As you know, Armed Forces Day has been hosted in each of the 9 provinces, with the focus being on the largest city in each of the provinces. In order to allow the smaller cities in the provinces to also benefit from hosting the Armed Forces Day, the decision was to visit 3 cities, namely Richards Bay, East London, and Saldanha. Each of these towns and cities had potential to host the AFD, but the Naval Command Council decided to recommend to the Chief of the South African National Defence Force to host the event here in Richards Bay because the SA Navy is planning to move our East Coast base from Durban to Richards Bay. This move will be done in consultation with Transnet National Ports Authority, who approached the SA Navy last year to discuss this possibility. It was TNPA who came to the Navy and said that they have large plans for the development of Durban Port, and the Navy base in Salisbury Island occupies prime property in the port. They would like the SA Navy to drastically reduce its footprint in Durban so that they can develop the harbour. As the SANDF stands to gain by this arrangement, our leadership has approved this move in principle. Once these negotiations are finalized and resolved, a formal announcement with timelines and budgets will be presented to the public. If all go according to plan, we should see a brand new naval base being built in this beautiful city, just a few hundred meters away from where we are sitting now. Once the decision to host in the event in Richards Bay was approved by the Military Command Council, the planning started in earnest. As you can imagine, an event of this magnitude has many small details that must be in place to ensure its success. From the beginning, we have just received the very best support from all the local stakeholders in the area. Please allow me to use this opportunity to thank the King of the mighty Zulu Nation, His Royal Highness King Mrs. Zulu KwaZulu-Natal, for his support to the Armed Forces Day. Also, the mayors of King Cetshwayo District Municipality and the Umhlatuza Local Municipality and all their staff for the warm welcome and generous assistance they have afforded us. We look forward to not only working with them for the Armed Forces Day, but also to work with them long into the future. We would also like to acknowledge the assistance of the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone of hosting our base camp, as well as the University of Zululand for allowing us to make use of their magnificent King Bheki Zulu Hall. Last but certainly not least, I would like to thank the KZN provincial government for all the support they've given us as well. Indeed, we could not have done this without all these stakeholders. I have instructed my planners to leave no stone unturned to ensure that the Armed Forces Day 2023 is the largest, most successful event of its sort ever. To the people of Zululand, I would like to say, make use of this unique opportunity to come and witness the awesome might and capability of the SANDF right here in your area. I would like to emphasize that all of the Armed Forces Days events are free of charge, and we invite all of you with open arms. I would also like to beg that the people of Zululand are patient with us because we will bring your beautiful city to a standstill. This sacrifice of yours will be rewarded handsomely because the SANDF will be spending a large amount of money in your local economy during this period. The guidelines received from the Chief of National Defence Force was also very clear in that we must spend a large percentage of the funds to benefit local contractors. I am pleased to say that we have done so. I can also report that most of the hotels and guest houses in this entire region has been booked out of the Armed Forces Day. I have been told that the entire hospitality sector in this region, in this area, is grateful for this with good reasons. Should some of you be wondering why the SANDF will spend all of this money on Armed Forces Day, I can reply the following. The constitutional mandate of the SANDF is to safeguard the country from and all threats, both foreign and domestic. Our ability as the Defence Force is to do this must be tested quite regularly. Thus, the Defence Force must test its systems to deploy large numbers of prime mission equipment and personnel to any places in the country and then sustain these forces for a suitable period. When the SANDF received the instruction from our Commander-in-Chief in 2012 that the sinking of the SS Mendi must be commemorated through Armed Forces Day each year, this concept of Armed Forces Day was developed. Now the SANDF is not only obeying this presidential instruction, but we are conducting a large-scale force deployment exercise and inviting the people of South Africa to see what the SANDF is doing with their tax money, all at the same time. By rotating and hosting the Armed Forces Day all over the country, the SANDF is building its capacity to deploy our forces to all of these places in record time. Should there be a requirement to deploy our forces to any of the cities which hosted this Armed Forces Day, we have already developed an institutional memory as well as local conducts to do this successfully. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude. The South African Navy is hugely excited to host the people of Zululand for the Armed Forces Day 2023 on behalf of the South African National Defence Force. Please come and support the SANDF in your thousands. The SA Navy likes to call itself the People's Navy. Well, for the duration of the Armed Forces Day, the South African National Defence Force will be known as the People's Defence Force. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Chief of the South African Navy. It's indeed the defense force of the people. I cannot say much, but you'll hear why is it a defense force of the people from the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, General Mapyanya. Would you please share your opening speech, sir, with us?
Allow me to write on the protocol, otherwise this is going to cease to be a media brief and it will be like a conference. So please bear with me. Protocol as read by the Chief of the Navy suffices, and I really appreciate it. I felt that I should be the one who now outlines the chronology of how we started with the Armed Forces Day. Whilst I was coming here, I received a call from a friend of mine who is currently in Matola, commemorating the death of some of the members that fell in Matola, and thus he reminded me that whilst you are going to launch the Armed Forces Day, you need to take cognizance of those who have fallen before 1994 and those who have fallen after 1994. And thus, the Armed Forces Day, as proclaimed in 2012 by the then Commander-in-Chief, was to bring the People's Defence Force to the people. That was the sole purpose. However, when we started in 2013, we had only one company. Whilst we were in Atteridgeville, and that was the small beginning. We indicated then that the Armed Forces Day is going to be a yearly event that will look at the people like Hadebe that fell in Mozambique, the people like Mabena that fell in DRC, and those who have fallen before 1994 from different combat areas and raids that were meted against our people. That's the first time the Armed Forces Day was celebrated in Atteridgeville. The HR Division, as the custodian of ceremonial responsibilities in the South African National Defence Force, was tasked to be responsible to arrange that particular parade. I indicated to you that it was a very small grouping of people. Each element or service provided a company of about 100 personnel and a few dozen vehicles that also formed part of the mechanized column for that particular parade. After the first Armed Forces Day that was held in 2013, the Military Command Council resolved that in future, the three services of the South African National Defence Force, both the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, and SAMS will alternate the responsibility to plan and execute the Armed Forces Day. The decision also made to alternate the venue, and thus we decided that we will have the Armed Forces Day in all the 9 provinces. Thus in 2014, the Army being the most senior service, I'm saying this tongue in the cheek because the Air Force and the other services will think because I'm putting on the brown uniform, I am biased towards the Army. But indeed, the Army is the workforce or the workhorse of the South African National Defence Force. So are the other services in terms of their respective responsibilities. We then said the Army will have to host that in Bloemfontein. The reason behind that was that the previous year we had an engagement and an encounter and a fierce battle in the Central African Republic, and the bulk of the people that participated in that battle and those that have lost lives were from 5th Special Forces Regiment, 7 Medical Battalion, as well as members of 1 parachute battalion that resides under 44 Para Brigade. So it was befitting that whilst we have lost members by that time, the 2014 Armed Forces Day should be held in Bloemfontein in honor of those who have fallen. Indeed, the people of Bloemfontein were happy that we are recognizing the efforts that were made by our people. And during this event, for a change, each service again supplied a company, personnel, and we increased the mechanized column. There was a small static exhibition in that particular Armed Forces Day, so as to allow the people to have a view of what the South African National Defence Force is all about. In 2015, the Air Force was the lead service to host Armed Forces Day, and they took this to Potchefstroom in the Northwest Province. It was during this event that the Army decided to increase its contingent of members on the parade and brought in the entire battalion. For the first time we said, it is not enough for us to parade, but let us also make the youngsters understand what is it that the Armed Forces, the South African National Defence Force is all about. And for the first time we created the Fan Park, or what we may call the military exhibition, for the entire public to be able to interact with the South African National Defence Force personnel and the display of the prime mission equipment. In 2016, the South African Navy was the lead service responsible for the Armed Forces Day, and this time we went to Port Elizabeth, which is now called Gqeberha. It was during the planning in PE, or rather in Gqeberha, but then it was still PE, that we said maybe we should plan around the capability demo. And that was public. For the first time, we got people going and seeing what is happening in the Navy. And during the night shooting, we invited both the members of the Diplomatic Corps and members of the chiefs of the defense forces of different countries of SADC. It is during this time that we decided that we will have a night shoot. We also introduced a new dimension to the armed forces where we had the military band gala concert and various community concerts. We also hosted sports clinics. For the first time, we said, whilst we are busy with the Armed Forces Day, let us have a legacy project that we will live in the community where we are having the Armed Forces Day. And that is now the advent of yet an additional issue that we brought into the fore in terms of truly becoming the People's Defense Force that comes from the people and that are of the people. Indeed, we continued in that trajectory. And in 2017, it was now the turn of the Pride of the Lions once again, the South African Army, to lead in preparing and executing the armed forces together with the rest of the services. They brought in a new issue in the Armed Forces Day, in that they said, we always derive our strength from the Almighty, and thus, why are we leaving our chaplains out of the mix? And then we started off with the concept of the interfaith service that brings all people of different faith together, preaching under the same roof. At that time, the size of the parade was also enlarged, where now each and every service provided a battalion, and thus we had a brigade in review in that particular parade. From here onwards up to today, the format and the size of the Armed Forces Day was established, and the planning was standardized to say we will now have a brigade so as to be able to deploy a brigade at any given time to any of our provinces. And through the Armed Forces Day, we will utilize all means to get our prime mission equipment to the areas where we are conducting the Armed Forces Day, and thus proving to the people of South Africa that when they are in need, their defense force will be able to project the forces to any part of our country to be able to respond to any challenge that we may find. In 2018, the Air Force was also given the chance to host again, and that was done in Kimberley. And then the following year again, 2019, it was the Navy that again hosted. So the Navy is hosting now for the third time. So it means they are seasoned, and we expect that being seasoned, we will expect fewer of the errors that we did during our time when we were still having the teeth coming out. Our teething period in 2013 is something of the past. In 2020, the Army hosted in one of the most spectacular Armed Forces Day in the farmost province of our country, Limpopo, in Polokwane. It was spectacular. Little did we know that we will not be able to host the Armed Forces Day in 2021 because of the pandemic, and we therefore stayed 2021 without the Armed Forces Day, and 2022 we were not very certain whether the pandemic will allow us to continue with the Armed Forces Day. And last minute, when we realized that there are certain gaps that we can exploit, and then we instructed Chief of the Air Force to say the Air Force is supposed to be agile. The Air Force is supposed to be able to plan at the shortest possible time and they take a much shorter period to move from point A to point B, as opposed to the Navy that requires more time to sail from point A to point B. And we threw the Chief of the Air Force in the deep end, and we said, you will, within 3 months, plan and execute the Armed Forces Day in Mpumalanga. And indeed, thanks to Chief of the Air Force, that you managed to pull out the Armed Forces Day, though at a limited scale, because we were still observing some of the restrictions of COVID. So that was now when we said we are coming back. And now, 2022, Chief of the Navy, with all the experience that he has, is now entrusted with hosting the 2023 Armed Forces Day. We said we are the defense force of the people, coming from the people, and we are of the people, and thus we had been hosting the Armed Forces Day in more affluent urban areas. And we said the people of South Africa that cannot afford to go to these affluent urban areas must also have the opportunity to interact and be with their armed forces, their People's Defense Force. And thus we decided to choose Richards Bay as the host city. And thus the projects that we have to conduct will involve the poorest of the poor villages, where our people might not necessarily have the opportunity to move and see their defense force, and the defense force will go to them so that they appreciate that indeed is that defense force and not the defense force of only the affluent. The Armed Forces Day, thus, this year will take a full-fledged Armed Forces Day that will bring in the entire brigade and a much bigger mechanized column, as well as the ships that will be in display and the night shoot that you will see. Currently, nearly 8,000 personnel from the entire SANDF will be in here, and 8,000 is quite a lot of people that the Chief of the Navy will have to command and cajole. We will have 4 South African Navy ships, dozens of the South African Air Force aircraft, including fixed wing and rotary wings, hundreds, I say hundreds, of South African Army prime mission equipment, vehicles, and weapons. The decision for us to bring the Armed Forces Day to this rural community was made very conscious of the challenges that we will face, both in terms of facilities, but we said as long as the people of this area accept and accommodate us, we will make do with what is there. There will be a number of activities that we will be involved in. Mostly they will be outlined by Kumalo, Captain Kumalo, as well as the activities that the South African Medical Health Services is conducting will be outlined during the course of our engagement by Dr. Muduja, rather Brigadier General Muduja, who happens to be a doctor. So he is General Muduja, and who is a doctor. It's not Dr. Muduja, who is a general. I want to put that in context. And I promise you that this is the Armed Forces Day that it will be very difficult to forget. The experience, you will definitely be treated to one of the best that we had ever displayed. The SANDF is inviting the people of South Africa to come and view their defense force, and we are proud to serve you. The people of South Africa always know that we keep on saying that we want them to go to bed and sleep peacefully. On top of that, even when they're sleeping peacefully, they must have a dream. And we keep on reminding them, yes, the dream of a better South Africa, it's a good dream, but that dream can turn into a nightmare And that is what we want to avoid. That the people of South Africa must never have a nightmare. Let them have a beautiful dream. And as the Chief of the Navy says, happy Valentine to all your partners and to the beautiful ladies that are here. Happy Valentine once again. I therefore stand ready to say your defense force will continue to defend you against any and all forces who wishes to harm and injure your beloved country. I thank you.
Chief of the South African National Defence Force, thank you very much, sir, for the wisdom you shared with us. Now is the time to present the sequence of events, the details of the Armed Forces Day. The presentation is going to be done by Captain Kumalo. May you please come forth, sir, and start with your presentation.
Chief of the South African National Defence Force, sir, also allow me to write on the protocol already observed by the Chief of the South African Navy. As already introduced, I am Captain Zamuwake Christopher Kumalo, appointed as the Armed Forces Day 2023 Chief of Staff. I will just quickly cover the sequence of events for this upcoming 2023 AFD. This sequence of events follows the similar pattern of the concept that already outlined by the Chief of the South African National Defence Force. As already depicted on the aim, this is where I will brief the ladies and gentlemen of the media about the upcoming AFD events. I'll follow a very similar scope where I will just outline the entire table of the activities that are going to be happening during the upcoming AFD week, of which we have stretched it over the period of 8 days. Then immediately after that, I will just look at a detailed program per each event, looking at the timelines and the timings and the days on when that event is going to open. Just the summarized program, before I go on to it, as already mentioned by CSNDF, that Brigadier General Mdujwa will cover other aspects that were done prior to the commencement of the AFD that is commencing tomorrow. So I will not touch on those aspects of Project Awetu and other outreach programs. This AFD for this upcoming AFD 2023 stretches over the period of 8 days, commencing from the 15th, which is tomorrow, up until the 22nd. You will notice that the days are depicted there in a color orange, stretching all the way. I must just make mention that the major events that are depicted with the green color are the major activities on those specific days, of which I will elaborate mostly when I go to details. But please take note that most of the activities that I will be discussing are concurrently happening while the other activities are also happening. So which basically means that there will be activities in various events happening at exactly the same time. Commencing with the Fan Park opening, that will commence tomorrow with the timelines that is as already will be discussed after this one on the detailed program. And then, of course, on Thursday, followed with the vessels open to the public, which will be here in this Tuzikazi waterfront, as we normally call it, the small craft harbor, followed by all those other concepts as depicted when we're going to have the gala concert, and we're going to have the fun run, the capability demonstration, and then the fan park will close. We'll have the interfaith service, the night shoot for the VIPs, which is going to be a major event, but I will discuss the details when I go through the program. And of course, D-Day itself being the day that SS Mendi sank on the 21st of February, 1917, is when the day itself will be commemorated and it will be broadcasted. And we'll commence with the relaying by the CIC, the Commander-in-Chief, the President himself, and then also commencing and followed by the main parade, which will also be conducted in the area, and the number of functions that will be conducted in the area, followed also by the appreciation concert, which I will later elaborate on it. And then lastly, when we start demobilizing on the 22nd of February, we will have a Chief SANDF Charity Golf Day, when all the members that have assisted in ensuring that AFD 2023 becomes a success will also be invited to have to enjoy the golf day with the Chief of the South African National Defence Force. So I will...
Sorry, sir. Sorry, Chief SANDF, for this operational pause. We just want to acknowledge the district mayor, due to other engagement, is requesting to withdraw, and so that we can recognize as such, and then we'll continue. The mayor of Mhlatuzi will remain behind, standing in for the district mayor. Thank you very much, sir, for your attendance. We truly appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I will now continue with the details of how the concept is actually going to unfold on each and every day. As I've already mentioned, while I discuss a specific event, bear in mind that the dates and the times will coincide with the activities that are also running in other venues. The first one being the fan park that is going to be open tomorrow. This event will be hosted at Mhlatuza Sports Complex, and the period will last from the 15th to the 19th of February 2023. The times of that event will actually open from 10 o'clock all the way to 1700. I must just make mention, for the fan park opening, which is tomorrow, the parade itself and the official opening is going to commence at 1000 Bravo. The fan park itself will have a number of activities where we'll have arena and static displays that are going to be displayed within the sports complex itself. The members of the public can come and view. We, as the South African National Defence Force, are also sending a number of buses to the radius of about 150 kilometers throughout the district, bringing school kids. At this stage, the average of about 3,600 kids will be brought into the area on a daily basis up until the fan park closes. Concurrently happening, we'll also have the sports clinics will be running. Most of the activities will be at Mfolozi TVET College, but also in variety of other areas, depending on the facilities that we require. It also opens, runs from the 15th to the 19th. Also opens at 0800 to 1600. This is aimed to just expose most of the members on different sporting codes that they are not used to, not only soccer, rugby, and cricket that our members are used to, but also just to expose our the members of the public on most of the sporting codes that are available also in the country and also in the Defence Force. And we will conduct that. We will also pass school kids to those specific events. Ships will be open to the public That event is running over the period 16 to the 19th of February, with the period of the time when the vessels will be open from 0900 to 1500. This event normally takes a lot of there is a lot of interest from the public, so we're closing quite early so that all the members that will be in line will still be entertained. All the vessels already mentioned, the 4 vessels that will be in the harbor, will be open to the members of the public so they can view how the sailors actually live on board the vessels, and they can access different areas within all those vessels. Then the gala concert, the date for the gala concert is the 17th of February. And the venue for the gala concert is University of Zululand, where we will host it at King Pegu Zulu Hall, as normally known as the Dome. At the time of that event, it commences from 1800 to 2100. The members of the public are also invited to attend this event, but also on the ticket system, which will be distributed to the community, and also invited guests where you can come and enjoy a good music experience with the members of the South African National Defence Force, performed by the military bands of the SANDF. And then there is a capability demonstrations, as already mentioned by CSNDF, that this concept was developed as it carries on. The venue for this event is 100 meters, also from here, which is a naval island just across, where we will simulate a similar war-fighting situation on the scenario that we have developed, and it's going to run over the period of 2 days. The 17th and the 18th of February. The 17th being the members of the public are allowed to come and view this event, and then on the 18th being the VIPs or the invited guests. And it's actually just being simulated, and we will see all the capabilities of the SNDF, not all, but most of it, that we can simulate within the space allocated to us. On the 18th of February, we will have CSNDF Fun Run, where all the members of the public are also invited to come and enjoy this event. It commences at 0700 to 0900, where the registration commences at 0630. We're expecting the event to start at 0730 on a designated route, but if the members can get themselves at the Umhlatuza Sports Complex, where the event is going to commence. And all the participants will receive a medal of participation. Interfaith service is already mentioned by CSNDF. Also, it's going to be held in a similar venue as the gala concert, which is University of Zululand at the Dome. This event will be on the 19th of February, commencing at 0900 to 1200. This interfaith service comprises all the predominant churches within the area will be invited to just give a small sermon, but of course will be led by Chaplain General of the South African National Defence Force, where members of the public can come and enjoy the sermon with the military members. It's also free of charge. The members of the public are encouraged to also attend this interfaith service. The night shoot will happen at Alcastrand Beach, not so far from here, where some of the assets or some of the weaponry system of the South African National Defence Force will be fired live, and the members of the public can also view that on a specific day, and the VIP day is on the 20th of February. It's commencing at 1700 to 1900, and all the precautionary measures to ensure that the event is successful has been taken into consideration. On the day itself, here we're only mentioning the AFD main parade. Of course, it will be preceded by the reed laying, when the Commander-in-Chief will lay a reed at the memorial site within the Impangeni area. And then the parade itself, where the stands and the podium of the Commander-in-Chief will be, is at Bullion Boulevard, and the marching column or the brigade in review will comprise of the marching columns and the mechanized column, and that parade is expected to commence at 10 o'clock exactly up until 1200. And the members of the public have an opportunity to witness most of the assets that are movable, which will be displayed as part of the mechanized column. And it will be officiated by the Commander-in-Chief. Lastly, and in our appreciation for all the disruptions we're going to cause within the city of Umhlatuza, we'll have on the similar day an appreciation concert to the committee, which will be free of charge, also on the similar day in the afternoon, where the members of the public also can come and enjoy the music with local artists and also integrated with the military bands. As already mentioned by Chiefs of the South African National Defense, all the events as stipulated on this program are free of charge to the community of the surrounding areas of the district and also of the local municipality. So that is the end of the presentation.
Thank you very much, Captain Kumalo, for that detailed presentation. I think everyone is aware now in terms of the sequence of events, how is it going to unfold. At this moment, allow me to call Lieutenant General Mapaha to come and briefly say a word about Project Awetu, then introduce Brigadier General Mduchwa in terms of the detailed presentation about the project itself.
Thank you, Brigadier General Mahapa. And I would like to also write on the protocol that has already been elaborated by Chief of the Navy. Chief, if you will allow me. I'm not going to tell you about Project Awetu, but just to say Project Awetu is a Zulu name, which means it's ours. The Chief and the Chief of the South African National Defense Force, as well as Chief of the Navy, have told you we are here to bring the South African National Defense Force to the people. So the project Awetu, it's us as the Defense Force saying we are yours to the people, as well as to say to the people of this district that we are in this week and next week, to say this project is yours. We want them to be part of this project. For it, when we came up with this concept, we said and said, look, for it to be successful, we must involve the community. So the community here will be involved all the way from the streets committees to the councils, to the villages, the chiefs, the municipalities, other government departments will be involved. So this is done so that the people can own this project and be part of it for it to be successful. And without wasting time, I would like to call Brigadier General Mduchwa to come and give you the details thereof. And then, yes, General, if you can come through. Chief, I present General Mduchwa to you.
the Chief of the South African National Defence Force. Sir, please permission to begin, and may I also write on the protocol. Please forgive me on my voice. I've been talking too much for the past few weeks. Now my voice is also failing me. But let me then begin with the project. Well, it is with great pleasure and honor for me to come in front of you to talk to you about the milestones that we've achieved on the project. But before I do that, let me then take you back on the conception of the project. Because the project itself, as the Chief has mentioned, that this is a People's Defence Force and the AFD is for the people. We conceived this project that we have been doing AFD in the urban areas, but the deep rural people don't really benefit from AFD. And then we, as the healthcare practitioners, we decided, what is it that we can do to add an impact on our people? And then we decided, together with various stakeholders from the Premier's office, down to the district municipality, the local municipality, as well as sector departments, Department of Health, Agriculture, Home Affairs, and the various departments, what is it that we can do? And then we formed a task team, and then we analyzed what is required in the deep rural areas, and then we found that out of the 5 local municipalities of the district, we can actually add an impact because there are people who are affected, who don't have access to the services. And ours was just to extend a helping hand to the people for whose services they've been waiting for, and they are not reaching because of either the distance or the limited resources of the departments. This all began in July 2022, and the planning phase was concluded in December 2022, and we began with the execution in January 2023. Now, the aim, well, basically is just to brief you on the milestones that we've achieved up until so far. This is the scope that I'll go through. Well, if you look into the map, you'll see the 5 local municipalities, and then we'll see that on the map there's red stars as well as green stars. The green stars are the places that we've attended to so far up until today. We started at Umlalazi municipality in Eshowe, where we did the opening on the 6th of February, last week on Monday. And then we moved to the city of Umhlatuze, and then we've done Umfolozi over the past few days, and then from tomorrow we start again with Mtonjanini, and then we'll conclude with Nkandla local municipality. And this project also does include another district municipality, which is Umkanyagude, where we have oral health practitioners who are stationed there for the past 2 weeks. Now, this is just a brief on what we've done. This project was divided into 3: health support, oral health, as well as veterinary support to the community. What I'll present to you now is what we've done in terms of the health support. We visited Eshowe Hospital, where we are stationed with oral health up until the 17th, which is Friday. And then as part of our visit to the people, we visited the schools. And one of the schools in Eshowe was Kwazibonile Primary School, where we were well received. And then our team of healthcare workers, they addressed the kids, addressed a few challenges, spoke to the teachers, together with our psychosocial team. But the milestones are coming. And then we've been to Tonrota, Ekombe, Ekupuweni. Today we are in Nkundisi. And then also we started in Macekane from yesterday, where we are planning to launch this project on Saturday, which is the 18th of February, at the sports ground there. As I've also mentioned that in Kwamsane, in Mtubatuba, we have this oral health clinic where we are busy sorting out a few issues with regards to oral health. Well, in terms of animal health, we have a team of veterinarians which has been going around together with the state vets in the city of Umhlatuze as well as the district municipality, where we've been going around from Mpembeni up until Ematsana. We're vaccinating animals both dogs and cats and any domestic animals that are there for rabies and all the diseases that are being faced. And you all know that in KZN, for the past few years, we've had rabies outbreak as well as foot and mouth disease outbreak. Then we've also been in Mfolozi from the 6th also, because we've got various teams which are going around together with the state vets, and then they've been visiting the various areas that you see in front of you. Now, this is now the pride of the dedicated team, which I want to present to you. In terms of the medical screening, we've seen about 3,465 clients from Monday, the 6th of February until yesterday, which was the 13th. And out of these, we focused in various communities as well as the schools on early detection of diseases. We focused on immunization because we were invited by the local Department of Health to assist them with the measles vaccination, because you see in South Africa now we're having an outbreak of measles. So we've assisted them with that, and then we've had to refer 387 people to hospitals because of what we could not really attend to into completion on the spot in the halls and the schools that we went to. At schools, we also saw a few of the kids who had burn wounds, which some of them were septic, that we attended to and we treated. We did oral health education to the students as well as to the teachers. And also, we went to the secondary schools where we also taught them about breast examination, awareness of the cervical cancer, as well as STIs. Our ancillary health team, which is our dietitians as well as physiotherapists, they also provided dietetic services, because we've seen a few kids who were malnourished, others were overweight. And then we also spoke to the teachers as well as the children themselves. And then we also gave nutritional education at the primary schools with 20 referrals for medical conditions that was done. Our psychosocial team saw about 670 members of the community, whether they were learners or they were teachers, where we empowered them on mental health issues, identifying emotional distress amongst the students. Our team also identified a few bullies in some of the schools, and then spoke to the teachers about bullying, as well as the students themselves, those who were being bullied and those ones who were doing the bullying. The teachers were then informed on how to identify these bullies and the children who were being bullied among them. The services were well received, as it has been said before, with a favorable impact on the community's mental health. And we were required by the school that we went to in Eshowe, KwaZulu-Natal, that we must come again, because they were not satisfied that we only gave them a day. The services that we gave to them were quite important for them to just allow us to pass. And we went there and we did it again. The social work team has seen about 2,062 members in both individuals and group, as well as 2 families. And then they addressed various issues, including amongst them teenage pregnancies, child protection and bullying as well, peer pressure, substance abuse were also addressed. Our oral health team, or should I rather say teams, because we have 2 teams in Eshowe as well as 1 team in Kwamsani. They've seen about 2,359 personnel. And their services included tooth extraction, minor oral surgery, teeth which were colored and then they did the fillings, as well as minor work on false teeth. And I must say they've told me that I must mention this, because the smiles that they had from the old people of our community when they were able to have false teeth being done by us as a defense force, it was quite too huge to just ignore. And then they've requested that we must come back again because this challenge is still continuing. And some of them we could not access them because we don't have the equipment that we brought with ourselves to make at least full false teeth. So we're able only to deal with the frontal false teeth. From yesterday, our team is engaged with surgery, assisting with oral health surgery to the children who have got cerebral palsy, which of course in Eshowe it's the first time that is being done. So they are quite happy to do that, as well as oral health education at the schools. The highlights then I want to mention also in here is that we brought in a minor dental laboratory which has never been at Eshowe Hospital, and they are quite happy that we are able to make these dentures within the dental laboratory there and then assist them, and then we can do all the fillings that are required for the teeth of our people. And then also this treating of children with cerebral palsy is quite a highlight also for them. Animal health, we've seen about 1,025 animals together with the agriculture department. We did domestic immunizations. Animal surgery also began yesterday on the 13th. And then the highlight in there was the removal of cancer from a dog by our veterinarians. And then they treated third-degree burns of the dogs, and then they sterilized 5 dogs. And then 1 dog had its leg amputated. It was not part of torture. And then we did mentorship to the young veterinarians who just got into the trade in the district. Also, as part of this project, we had an engagement with Department of Agriculture, where we are assisting them with vegetable gardens, especially in the families that we identified that they were very poor, and some of them were child-headed families. So we spoke to the Department of Agriculture, and then they're assisting us. And one of them that we're busy with now currently is a family in Kwamacegane, where they started today to bring in seeds, and then our members from the Defense Force are assisting to tend the soil so that we can plant these seeds. And then we also got fertilizers from the Department of Agriculture. Now, these are the activities that are upcoming as of today up until the 18th, when we do the official launch of the 5-year program. We are in Macegane at Nsombosi Primary School. We've briefed this morning the Traditional Council, which has adopted our project. Tomorrow they're going to be in Ekombe Primary School, as well as the Multipurpose Center, both addressing the school children as well as the communities. And I must say, the reception has been overwhelming. That sometimes we have to work until late to attend to other community members that are visiting our places. On the 16th, we're in Makatini Primary School, which is in Mtonjanini, and as well as the Multipurpose Center, also doing the health screening, as well as oral health education and psychosocial education to the school children, as well as the community. On the 17th, as part of the launch in Macegane, we're having a 4-kilometer walk, which is an anti-GBV walk. This was requested by the community, that they want us to do this in collaboration with them, and we are participating in that. We also have a mini soccer tournament where the community is going to play against the soldiers, and then the winner is going to be announced at the launch on the 18th of February. And then lastly, on the 18th, then in Kwamacegane, we're going to launch this project. And this project is with a theme that says, let's improve the lives of our people, one community at a time. And us as a Defense Force, we are adding value to our people, we're providing leadership, getting all the departments together, and then we work for our people. And we're going to do this for the next 5 years here in KZN. We're going to review it annually. At the end of 5 years, then we're going to do the final review to say, what is it that we're able to achieve? What did we plan for? What is that we need to do going forward? And this is just the beginning, because this project doesn't end here. Everywhere where we're going to have the Armed Forces Day, we're going to institute this project, whether it's in Eastern Cape or in Limpopo or in Northern Cape. This is what the Defence Force is going to do for its own people. As it has been said that this is a Defence Force of the people. So it is going to work for the people. Basically, one part which I've not mentioned, which is the University of Zululand. We also have a program at the University of Zululand, which is starting from tomorrow, the 15th, up until the 17th, where we're going to do scarce skills mobilization, because they do have some healthcare students who are studying their nursing as well as physiotherapy and other disciplines. We've already begun, because on the 7th of February, I was invited by the university to address their new students, where we were also linked virtually with other campuses of the university. And we recruited the students as well as gave them some motivational talk to prepare them to transition from high school life to tertiary life. As part of what we're going to be doing at the University of Zululand, we're also going to be doing career discussions, recruiting for permanent force as well as reserve force members. And then we're also going to demonstrate to them what is it that the Defence Force does in terms of our parachuting, rope work activities, rappelling, fast roping, stretcher hoisting, as well as hot extraction, just to attract them and show them that what you always see far away and in movies, your Defence Force does it, and you can be part of it also. And then on the 17th is the last part. Then we come into Richards Bay, where the Department of Human Physical Movement physiotherapists is situated, and then we'll also have career discussions with them and recruit those ones that we can recruit. It would not be enough if we didn't look into the welfare of our people. And as part of the welfare, we identified 25 families in King Cetshwayo district municipalities who do not have breadwinners, because if we are to make an impact to our people, we have to make sure that at least in some families they are breadwinners. And as a Defence Force, because we are also recruiting for the Military Skills Development Program for 2024, we identified children who were busy with matric last year, 25 of them in those families. I would like to say that out of the 25, 23 of them passed, but 2 of them failed. And the 2 that failed, they come from one family, which is a child-headed family. They lost both their parents, and both of them, they were doing matric. And because of the burden of having to look after the siblings, then they didn't make it. Not that they were not brilliant. They are bright children, and I would think, so if we can look after them, they can rewrite their matric, and then they will pass if we support them. Thank you. We identified also 5 families out of these municipalities that needed shelter. And shelter, I mean housing. And I'm proud to say that today, with the Provincial Department of Human Settlements, they've adopted these 5 houses, and they're going to build the houses for these families. So as of today, they are putting a temporary structure for one of the gentlemen in Komacegane, but they've promised that by July, all these houses would have been built, and then these families would be having shelter. And one of the families who need shelter is one of the 2 children who failed matric because of the conditions that they live on. We've worked together with the Department of, with the Works Formation, and then we've done the scope of work for these houses, and then we're going to hand over that work now to the Department of Human Settlements, and then they're going to continue, and we'll monitor. This project is not going to end when AFT ends next week. It's going to continue because one of our units here in KZN, which is Area Military Route Unit KZN, is going to be doing the constant monitoring together with the stakeholders that are part of this project. And the district municipality has adopted this, that they're going to be part of this, and then they're going to adopt it as part of their project for the municipality. So it's not going to fail. It's going to be constantly monitored, and we're not going to fail our people. And every year when we come, we're going to go to different areas because we want to impact as many people as possible within our communities. Basically, this is just a picture of the team that went to do the scope of work in the house in Komacegane, where a temporary structure is being built as we speak. And then the last one is just the summary of the numbers. And as you can see them, what I've presented to you, and I'll not go through that summary. Chief, sir, this brings me to the conclusion of the milestones that we've achieved in Project Awetu, and we hope to achieve more with the collaboration of the stakeholders as we go forward. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, General Mtuchwa. I think the Defence Force has outdone themselves. Can we give the project Awetu another round of applause? We are very, very, very happy, and we pride ourselves with the successes that we are indicating there. All right, at this moment, please allow me to call Umhlatuze, Councillor Ngwezi, to share his remarks with us, please. Councillor Mayor, my apology, Councillor Mayor. I don't want to do another mistake, Councillor Mayor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Program Director. And let me take this opportunity and extend my greetings to the Chief of the SANDF and also Admiral Libesi of the SA Navy. Allow me to say all protocol is observed. The officials from the city and members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, receive my warm greetings this afternoon. It is great honor for us as the city of Umhlatuze to be the 2023 Armed Forces Day host city. When last year our city of Umhlatuze officials informed me that we are visited by the SANDF delegation to inspect and assess our facilities, I did not think much of it until we were informed that our city has been approved to host the event of this magnitude. We are a city that has a comparative advantage of other sister municipalities as we are strategically located along the N2 business corridor linking the port of Richards Bay with the port of Durban and connects with Mozambique. We are also a host to many industries, some of which are multinational and at the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone, which is a special economic zone. In actual fact, our city is the second in the province when it comes to the economic contribution. Armed Forces Week long festivities that are resuming tomorrow with the official opening of the Fern Park at the Richards Bay Sports Complex present economic spin-offs which will come from direct cash injection to different business sectors. These are sectors which include hospitality and retail, employment opportunities through the SANDF recruitment drive, and other initiatives. The Armed Forces Day also provides an opportunity for us as the country to watch closely the pride and the mighty strength of our defense units, for us as citizens to feel highly safe and protected in all our corners of our land and also in this area, in the land and in the sky. We also hope that discussions around the establishment of the naval base here in Richards Bay are progressing very well. Your visit will leave lasting memories to our communities as they will get to see you up close and get to understand the work that you do for our country. We are grateful for the outreach programs that you are rolling out, as you are even extending them to other nearby municipalities under the King Cetshwayo district. I am sure you have seen the greater need for all of us to work together for the betterment of our people. People do not see color. All they need is for us to collaborate and provide them with basic services as enshrined in the Constitution of the Republic of South Africa. We are aware that your presence in the city of Mhlathuze is already benefiting local businesses, as it is our culture in the city to see to it that the locals become part of any development that takes place in the city and benefit from such developments in one way or another. With that being said, our facilities that the Army has identified are already at your disposal, as we have made sure to well prepare everything on our side for such a great event, the Armed Day Forces. Our people are ready to receive you, in fact have already received many of you, and the services you will be rendering and those you have rendered so far. Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome all of you, and I know you will want to come back in this beautiful city because we offer nothing but the best to our visitors. With that being said, I wish the Minister of Defense, Ma'am Odise, a happy Valentine's Day, and to the rest of the women who continue to serve our nation in the Defense Force. To Mrs. Ntuli of the district, and to my wife, and all the ladies of the city and the entire district. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mayangwezi. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate especially your hospitality here in Mhlathuze and the district itself. We really appreciate that. Now it's time for questions from the media. I assume that we understand the drill by now. Just the media house where you come from. I see the first hand already. And your name, and then you pose your question. We'll have a rotating mic for all the media houses. Please, sir.
Good afternoon. Franz Machate from Progressive Independent News Agency in Pretoria. I think my question will go to the Chief of the SANDF. There is a rumor, and I'm saying a rumor, that the Russian warship frigate Admiral Gorshkov is in South Africa, is on the shores of South Africa, and will be participating in the drills of the AFD. How true is that? And what is its significance now? Why is it coming now, particularly considering the war that is happening between Russia and Ukraine? Is this some sort of an intimidation drill to the opponent? So what activities is it going to participate in, if indeed it is in South Africa? Thank you so much.
The next question, there's one this side, please, on my right.
Yeah, well, Usipamandla Koke from ENCA. I'm partly covered on the other question. Now that you serve the people of South Africa, there has been a declaration of a national state of disaster in terms of the energy crisis and the floods that are engulfing 7 provinces across the country. As the South African National Defence Force, have you been given your marching orders as to what will be your role in this national in this national state of disaster in terms of the energy crisis as well as the floods? Are you assisting the flood victims in KwaZulu-Natal and other provinces? There are 7 provinces that were outlined yesterday. But also, number 2, now that we are in King Cetshwayo, maybe Mayor Ngwezi on behalf of Mayor Mpemba, can you talk to us about your district? How has it been affected? Because it's one of 4 districts in KwaZulu-Natal that have been declared as those who have been severely affected by the floods. How is the situation here? Has the People's Republic of China confirmed its participation in drilling with the South African as well as the Russian forces? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Can we have another take? In the absence of that, can we respond to these 2, then we'll go to the next round. The first one was from Mr. Franz regarding the Russian warship frigate, Aruma. Chief, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Franz. It's a very nice question that you've asked, because today we're launching the Armed Forces Day. But parallel to that, there is an activity that had been planned some few years ago in terms of the exercises that we conduct. This is a valid question in as far as the next phase of activities is concerned. The Armed Forces Day particularly deals with the commemoration of the heroism of our people. And that is very separate from the other exercise. I will stop at that, in that we have got relationships that were built, be it at the political or economic level, whereby you have got the BRICS, which brings us together with Brazil, South Africa, Russia, and India. This exercise that is going to come after the Armed Forces Day is the exercise that involves the BRICS. The presence of the ship has nothing to do with the Armed Forces Day, because the Armed Forces Day is purely a South African National Defence Force activity commemorating the heroes of South Africans. There are guests that we will invite, friends from the region, to be part of the Armed Forces Day. So we'll be friends coming from afar. So in terms of the Russian vessel that is said to be on our shore, the Russian vessel is part and parcel of the exercise. Much as I'm saying, there will be a media launch if need be to launch the exercise Mositu. So allow me to reserve more comments, unless if it is to the interest of all of us that we move now into the exercise mode. But for now, I would like us to let the people of South Africa appreciate that their defense forces in Richards Bay for the Armed Forces Day and showcasing what they have in defense of the country. I think I have responded to this one of France. Then, because it's related to this one of Kasi Poman, I will leave this to other members of the panel or to other members, the Chief of the Navy and the rest of the leadership of the Defense Force. Suffice to say that there are particular areas that will be involved in with the declaration of the state of disaster, but I will stop there so that at least I must not monopolize the platform and allow the members of the panel to come up with responses to this. I will come in if need be and there is something else that they have missed out. Thank you.
Is it on? Okay. General, through yourself, sir, the question, this was France, Silo and the colleagues from the media. It is not the first time that the South African National Defence Force is engaged in an exercise with foreign countries on a bilateral basis, on a multilateral basis. And you would know that we have been having exercises in 2022 with various countries except for Russia, excluding the Russian Federation. We have had exercises, I think, from last year. One that we had was Oxide, and you would know we had that exercise with the French. And we have had a number of exercises actually, and therefore we have also had, that was in June, the exercise that we had, and it was around here in Richards Bay, and we had that one with the United States. And in November we had an exercise with France. And this time around we're going to have an exercise with Russia. And the reason for this, it's because we are exercising ourselves. We want to learn from others. We want to gain experience in as much as they will have to gain experience from ourselves. So that is the purpose for this exercise, which we have right now with, as we have termed it, exercise MOS. So that is where we stand. Chief, I think I will stop at that unless there was one for the disaster which has been asked. I think it was asked by Mandla on this one from ENCA. And I would want to say, Chief, on this one, let us, the one thing about the South African National Defence Force is that we are quite active when it comes to matters of disasters, especially when they hit South Africans. You would remember what has happened when disaster strikes in KZN. We have employed the capabilities that is within the South African National Defence Force from the engineers themselves. And we have made use of that. Right now we are going beyond this. Our thinking is broadening up. And it is broadening up to the extent that we thought that perhaps because each time disaster, it doesn't seem like it will go away, but we are broadening ourselves up to say, perhaps we need to rethink the concept of disaster management. How can this become part of ourselves? Because it is already part of ourselves. Each time there's a disaster, we are asked to respond, and so we take it upon ourselves as our own duty to do so. So that is where we stand with this one. It is an issue that is being thought about and being appreciated within the South African National Defence Force. General, thank you, sir.
Thank you very much for the question which Mr. Goke actually asked, that I respond on behalf of the Mayor of King Cetshwayo. And the answer which on the question he has asked is that yes, we've had so many of our people in the district affected. In Kandla, for instance, in Ward 2, where the mayor originally comes from, there is an incident that was reported in Ward 2, Patane area, which was that of a structural collapse. In Mfolos, for instance, in Ward 6, or rather that which used to be Ward 6, just next to Mzinga's Community Hall, it's in the area next to us where we are. 11 houses were actually reported to have been affected. And also in the areas of Mhlatuza, for instance, we've had to evacuate about 33 people in the area of Skalin. And also these are areas generally when there are rains, people will be affected because where they built their houses is actually next to the river banks. And one will ask a question and say, what are we doing about that? In working with human settlement, we've already appointed a service provider that is dealing with the information gathering on how are we supposed to move out, and it's about 1,000 families, and also public works is being engaged to actually give us land which is next to the N2 when you off-ramp to Eskaleni Township. So work is underway, or rather planning is underway in terms of addressing those areas. There were also some houses reported also in the area of water next to of the houses that flooded, and our teams actually responded, and other relevant stakeholders will be dealing with the matter in due course. And also, I must indicate that in Mlala, for instance, we've had issues also that were reported in Genindlovu because of the cause of drainage. And we are seeing that now with the climate change, and as municipalities, COCTA and other relevant stakeholders, we need to prepare ourselves really for these things, maintenance of infrastructure. And in many areas, especially in the areas of Amakosi, some roads were washed away, and I'm afraid we may have to request more funding. And COCTA had already given us some funding to address the disasters which struck us a year ago, and I'm afraid we'll go back to them, because the danger with these gravel roads is that when you do them, you can do them today, and once there is rain in the next 2 days, the whole 7 million rand we have put in that 20-kilometer gravel road gets washed. So, for instance, as the city, we are beginning now to do what is called resilient roads, semi-tar roads, because we think that will be equal to, face the abusive nature of rains, heavy rains that we normally face. We have started with that project in the area of Ward 30, in the area under Nkosuzongo. We have a budget of 12 million rand to actually deal with that. So I'm saying plans are there to actually mitigate the heavy rains which we have been advised that we'll be facing due to climate change and related issues. Thank you.
Can I just come in on that issue raised by Commander? Whether we had been given marching orders with regard to the issue of energy and disaster. We are hard at work. We have already started utilizing some of our assets in areas where our people are affected. The Air Force dispatched air assets to assist the people that were in distress, both in Mpumalanga and here in KZN Bembe, as well as KZN Bembe and Mpumalanga. That planning is underway together with the local disaster management entities to ensure that we provide the necessary support to our people. That is with regard to disaster. In terms of the area of energy, we've given our inputs as to how the National Defence Force will also assist whilst we are dealing with the issue of the energy crisis. We have started in a very small way to ensure that we safeguard our power stations. We have deployed entities to ensure that the challenges that they were facing in terms of pilfering, as well as other elements that subvert our energy security, is taken care of. We have put in also the engineers to assist in one way or another in trying to rehabilitate some of our power stations. Those are the elements that we've deployed. So in terms of what the Chief of Staff is saying is that now that we are looking at redesigning the entire structure of the National Defence Force, the force design as it is, we have realized that we cannot continue to use our collateral assets for disaster management, and therefore we are establishing a disaster management unit within our environment. So that structure will be a structure that will be responsible for responding to disaster if and when it hits our shores. So I just wanted to reassure you that yes, indeed, marching orders were issued as soon as the Commander-in-Chief realized that our country is in distress and said their National Defense Force first must be on standby, secondly must be actively be involved as we are currently involved. We will put all our assets that are available in service for assisting our people. But there are specific departments with that responsibility who will be in support of those particular departments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the response. It's becoming evident that disaster is becoming our new normal now. So that's why the Chief SANDF is re-emphasizing that unit within the SANDF. Can I take more questions, please? Yes, sir. Okay, I'll take 3, 1, 2, 3, and then, okay, Sipomandla. Okay, you'll be the fourth one, sir. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. My name is Sipo Senkosi Mtetwa. I am on the issue of noise pollution and the destruction that noise pollution does to people. What is my question is that how does the Navy combat that? And since they have got machinery, all the machinery to measure the noise that rises up to the sky, will that be a part of the protection of our people? Since noise pollution has got a lot of negative impact on the communities from the research that we have made as NOPA Foundation, that is Noise Pollution Awareness Foundation, which has been established established from here in Mhlatuze municipality. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Mtetwa. I didn't get from which media house are you from?
I am representing NOPA Foundation, that is Noise Pollution Awareness Foundation, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. Noted. The next question.
I'm Svisan Vega from King Kajau FM, online radio. My question is to Naval Chief. I'd like to understand and know the speed up of new military base around our area, and also to Awetu, trying to find out when are they going to, do they still need more families to assist? If ever they do need more families, how can we submit those families to the organization? Thank you.
Thank you, Babu Kachwayo. The next question. There was a hand. Okay. Sir.
From ENCA again. What you have observed to be the outcome of this Armed Forces Day and the engagement of South Africans, do you feel that there is an interest based on the previous projects that you have undertaken, but tie it with this year's event? If I heard correctly based on the presentation, it would appear to me that you are going big this time around and you have increased the personnel. Obviously, that will come at a cost. The South African National Defense Force and all other institutions in South Africa are financially stressed. Are you not worried about escalating costs moving forward if you continue to go big? Coming back to the relocation of the naval base from Durban to Richards Bay, when is the project completion date?
Thank you very much, Supermandla. Any other question before we respond? Yes, sir.
Francis Chat again from Progressive Independent News Agency. Just back to the disaster management issue. The chief of the SANDF mentioned that you going forward you will not be using resources from your own collateral and you will have to partner with other relevant departments and institutions. Is this not going to somehow deter you from assisting more in time? And how long, in terms of the current situation, how long do you think that you'll be able to resolve or to get to the ground and assist? When are you likely to start being on the ground and assisting? Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other question before we respond? Thank you. Can I request the panel to respond accordingly, please?
Let me take lead as the Chief of the National Defence Force. Starting off with the question raised by Siposenko's on from NOBA Foundation in terms of the noise pollution. I take it that the question is raised in relation to the night shoots and the training activities that we will have in area. If that is the case, I will respond it in the following way. One, we have been doing training throughout the country, and we check in terms of the decibels that are allowed within our training areas and the areas that are populated. Sometimes we also say that you can't have your cake and eat it. When we were in Otsore, which is the infantry school, the community came and said, these people, sometimes they shoot even at night and they're disturbing our sleep. We say, okay, fine. We relocate. We will find, South Africa is big, we will find another infantry school. And they realized that we are part and parcel of the community because we get involved in community issues. So they came back and said, yeah, no, you had been here for so many years and we are being naughty by saying that now all of a sudden you are making noise. It's not us as the authorities. You can continue to have your infantry school and continue to exercise. So we said we wanted to come to this area. Whilst we are conscious that our weapon systems, sometimes they make noise, but it's not for forever. We will be here just for a week. We want you to feel our presence. And if we don't shoot, the Defence Force actually defend you, particularly because of our ability to shoot. We're the only ones with the monopoly to use force, and they use arms. But those arms are not silent. So you're not going to have your cake and eat it. We will show you, if you feel that no, we do mock attack. We can use what we call umbobo abantu and shoot with the mouth, pa, 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 and that noise will be really quite. So on a more serious note, we take note and we always observe that the decibels that need not be exceeded will not be exceeded. But guns are guns. So if we have to get deep into the sea, we will shoot from deep, but we will not see anything. So we have to trade between allowing you to experience and say, hey, when these people are at war, this is the noise that they experience. Or else we go there. I know, being a foundation responsible for dealing with noise pollution, you are concerned and you will advise as to how best can we make do with what we have. And if you say we don't shoot, because you are saying it's like, now you are saying we shouldn't come to this area, because what is the use of having a defense force and then yet you say, don't show me what you said you are coming to show me. So as it's a dicey situation, and I say you can't have your cake and you eat it. But we will be conscious of what the requirements are in terms of sticking to the decibels. I'm not going to shoot tanks here, nor am I going to shoot cannons, big cannons. So I will shoot what is small arms,
Maybe I will stick to that. I don't know. When I say small arms, it depends because it's relative. For other people, small arm is a pistol. For others, it's a rifle. But I will shoot small arms. Thank you.
Thanks, Chief of Defense Force, for such a response. I don't think it requires me to add anything further pertaining to the noise pollution because we are not a basketball team. We are a military organization that is meant to fire missiles, torpedoes, and all those things are bound to generate noise. So we'll try and limit, but we'll give you earplugs so that you can protect your eardrums from being affected by what you are doing. If we will actually have weapons and systems that actually do not generate the noise that they are meant to generate, it's just by design, then the defense force will cease to be a defense force. That noise is also critical to deter the opponents that we are dealing with. But the SA Navy from time to time does participate on other environmental activities. When there's pollution of oil in our waters, the SA Navy does participate in those things. So issues of environmental protection and awareness, it's close to our hearts. It's not something that we actually neglecting. With regard to the issue pertaining to the establishment of the naval base, establishment of a naval base is not something that actually happens overnight. There's a lot of planning that is actually taking place, budgeting that is actually needs to be finalized. But those project teams are actually meeting. Flag Officer Fleet, which is my force commander in Simonstown, is not with us here now. He's sitting in a meeting with TNPA to try and expedite these discussions so that we can be able to finalize this matter. We anticipate a period of plus minus 5 years to have this naval base fully fledged built. But that is also, as you can see, this region is actually baptized by lots of rains. So take into consideration that with such amounts of rain, those can also affect the building progress. But in terms of our discussions with department, with TNPA, we expect that from the day that the first brick is being laid, we'll be able to finish the construction of this base within 5 years. That's all. Thank you.
There is a question also from Sfiso with regard to Awetu. I take it that Sergeant General will assist us with that.
Thank you. I can't remember the question, but I think it was from somebody from the municipality. I cannot remember the name. I left my documents there. However, when we explained earlier, we did indicate that we have formed committees with local authorities from the streets all the way to government departments that we work with. And General Mututwa indicated that this project is not ending this week or next week. It's a long-term project, and that's why we involve the community to work with. And he again indicated that throughout the country, we have medical services. And working with those communities, we are blessed as the South African Military Health Services because we have all disciplines of health. So working with those communities, we will continue to assist those who need our care most. Remember, we are targeting the poor. So I can say to the gentleman who asked this, if you are from this district that we are in, there are committees that we work with. We've got project teams, and you can submit your requirement to those people. Remember, we've got limited budget, and that's why we decided we will work with other government entities for us to work together to do this. However, we committed ourselves that this is not a once-off project. It will continue throughout. Thank you.
Thank you. And I also just add, in terms of the issue by Commander Koke, in terms of the outcome of the Armed Forces Day, as well as the issue of the increase both in stature and in terms of personnel, in view of the current budget cuts. We are one department that had been hit very hard with the question of budget cuts. But being the South African National Defence Force, we continue to provide what is expected of us by the people of South Africa, despite the budget cuts. We are not saying that in whatever we do, we are not affected, but we are simply saying, with or without the budget cuts, the people of South Africa still expect to be defended. They still expect that the territorial integrity will still be maintained. They still expect that we will be able to project the forces as well as support our international obligation. The expansion of the Armed Forces Day, both in terms of equipment and personnel, is part and parcel of the exercise for us to ensure that we will guarantee that we can project forces to any part of our world, any part of our country, in line with the expectations of the people of South Africa. So we are quite conscious that when we started very small, and we said we will peg this at the brigade level so that at least a brigade under normal circumstances can withstand whilst any force, whilst you are mobilizing a bigger force to be able to respond to whatever threat that is there. So yes, we are feeling it, but we have diverted and taken some of the resources that were meant for force preparation, because for me this is part and parcel of force preparation. So there is no conflict. There is no way where we will say we have got sufficient funds. But with the funds that we have to use the funds very smartly. And if I can train a brigade by bringing it down to Richards Bay, taking all elements from all parts of the country, because our units are dispersed in various areas. So for me, that is already a success before I even display what I have. The mere fact of logistics that are involved in the movement of forces from one point to the other, it's a plus to me. And it is a force multiplier. And it therefore tells me that the last rand and cent had been optimally utilized. So I think, indeed, we feel the pinch, but it is for the good use. Maybe before I touch on the next issue with regard to the question of disaster management that France also raised once again, I just want to put this in context. I said we are going to establish a unit that will be dedicated to disaster management. This is now, during my work session, it came out openly that if we will respond to disaster in an ad hoc way and utilize the resources that are meant for war fighting, because the boats and the aircrafts that I take to go and respond to disaster are the boats and aircrafts that are meant for warfighting. So we want to have a dedicated team that we will resource to deal primarily with disaster when and if we are required to respond to disaster. I think in that way, we will not be doing a disservice both to ourselves and to the country. Because if I'm supposed to go and fight, now I have to balance between must I go to battle or take some of these aircrafts and go and respond to disaster. But if I've got an entity that is dedicated to disaster management, that entity will be able to respond everywhere, anytime when it is required to do so. The question of engagement with other stakeholders and departments, we are part and parcel of the net joints. And currently, the net joints is sitting, looking at the disaster as it is. And it is in that context that I say we will collaborate with the rest of other state entities in responding to the disaster. But we are hard at work at the moment. I said we had air assets that were sent both to Mpumalanga, and there are air assets that had been positioned here in KZN, waiting for the decisions to say, how do we then utilize the available resources to respond to the current disaster, so as not to be seen to be leaving out areas that people are really in distress. So yes, indeed, we are hard at work, and planning is still ongoing, both at the net joints and at the prof joints. The meetings are almost daily. Let me leave this and check if the Chief of Staff cannot now dive deeper in the issue of the budget, because he is my main administrator in terms of budget. Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Joros. I think the Chief has said it all really with regards to the budget. I don't feel there's anything to add. I just want to say that, look, from a military point of view, planning, coordination, and execution, where you are deploying a large force, is part of training. And you cannot overstate this. We, as the Chief said, we started off with a brigade, and we are upscaling. And maybe to give you a further example into this, in the midst of budget constraints, you know, unbelievable, the Army had to stage a divisional exercise in the midst of budgetary constraint. Why is this critical? It is critical because the mainstay for us to win our wars is based on two fundamental issues, and the first one being training itself as a culture, as a military culture, training to ensure high morale for soldiers. And the second one being agility of mind by those who are in command. We need that. We cannot sit back and say, because there is budgetary constraint, and therefore let us sit and not do anything about this. No, we have to move forward as a defense force, given the little resources that we have. Chief, you have said it also. I thank you.
Thank you for the response. I see there's another hand there at the back. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, sir. To the leaders of the Army, I simply need to put the record straight. The noise pollution that I spoke about was not of the Navy and the action that is going to be done now, today and all these days. The noise pollution that I was talking about was an ongoing program, because we have just done a research that there is a big noise pollution, most especially in residential areas. As you will notice that even the music gadgets, they are stronger than before. So people that are at work, and when they reach their homes, they cannot rest, they cannot get proper rest. So that also make them to be tired on the following day, or get a fatigue. And there are so many negative and diseases that is caused by noise pollution. So we as NOPA Foundation, we are appealing to the army. If would be there any machine or a gadget that could help us to understand the noise increase when you use your aircraft on top, and then you measure this noise. Maybe you've got a bigger machine that could give us how many decibels, maybe in so many meters away, so that we can determine how much noise pollution is affecting us here or on the ground. On the army side is it a part of, can the army help us in that somehow? This is what I want to put correct, because if I was saying the army must not use the noise is part of army. Now I'm just reminded of a child that was guilty, and the child was guilty, and when one asked the question, "What is your name?" the child said, "You mean me?" And then, who am I speaking to? No one was around, but it was the child. So thank you so much.
Babam Chetwa, thank you very much for your consent. Can the panel respond if there's a need to give the assurance that, yes, as a defense force, we are equally concerned? And, okay, the General would like to respond to that, sir. Okay, can you come forth? General?
Thank you. I think we agree that the noise pollution, it will be caused by continuous action. And that is clear. And your concern is the base probably that will be established and probably will involve in exercises and trainings. Sorry, my name is Lieutenant General X. Bindrovo, Chief of Logistics. What I wanted to say is that we do have a section of environmental management that looks at the impacts of environment. And they develop plans during the training or exercises. And then they will determine what will be the impact and come up with the action plans. So if there's a need, there will be obviously a communication with organizations such as you. And in order to determine those LDs, DLs, if ever they are going to have a serious impact within those exercises. Thank you.
Thank you very much, General. We appreciate the response. Yes, sir. There's a question there at the back.
So can we respond to it before?
All right. So, sorry, can you stand by for a second? Thank you.
Well, thank you, Program Director and Chief of South African Defence Force for giving me a minute. I think that with the response that was given by the Mr. Ndlovu, not my
yes.
right? Yes. I'm sorry to call you Mr. Okay. I think that this issue has to do more of bylaws of the different municipalities. For instance, here in the city, we have a bylaw, for instance, that talks about the management of noise and other activities. For instance, you can't go beyond 11 o'clock at night. If you have any function, it shouldn't be. And you must seek consent from your neighbors, for instance. So I'm saying that, for instance, if the foundation feels that there are issues that may need to be reviewed, they are free to consult the municipality. And the COO of the municipality is here, Mrs. Temberger Kumalos Kakane, yes. She's here, she can be contacted. And yeah, we'll see what is contained by our bylaws. And yeah, see where do they think there are gaps. Because also we must be mindful of what the gentleman is saying there. But also we must be mindful that there are people who make a living, who are employed by these sound gadgets, companies which actually manufacture those things. So there must be a balance between the life of human beings and, you know, economic spin-off thereof. But also be mindful that life is much more important than any other issue. So I wanted to give that contribution to the issue that is raised by the gentleman from the Noise Pollution Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you for that response, Mayor Gwezi. I think maybe in attempting to conclude this matter, because your consent is equally the SANDF consent, like General Jove has indicated, we'll get your number, and then the member of the Defense Force for the environmental section, they'll work with you so that we can come to a common understanding. We'll do that. Thank you very much. Yes, sir.
Guy Martin here from Defence Web. Even though we've got quite severe budget cuts, the SANDF is getting a few new items. For instance, we've got the new inshore patrol vessel moored outside here. I was just wondering what other prime mission equipment is going to be coming to the SANDF with a specific reference to airlift. And could we get an update on the possibility of acquiring C-130s from the United States? Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Is there any other question? Can we come to an end? Thank you. I see it's the last one. Can we get a response on that one? That's the last question for the day. Chief, sir.
Thank you,
Guy Martin.
Guy Martin. I don't know why I should baptize you with a new name again. Yes, indeed, we are in a process of rejuvenating, and for us, rejuvenating is a multi-pronged exercise. I think I will confine myself mainly on the areas that we have touched, because we are not only dealing with the two areas, but the Navy, indeed, is receiving new systems, and the Air Force, because I say that the second part of your question has to do with the strategic airlift, although it's medium strategic airlift, not really heavy. The C-130 issue. There is an offer that we received. I'm not going to speak more about the terms of the offer. With our friendly country that we share a bilateral engagement, they have offered us at first two C-130s that we wanted to augment to our systems. Now, it is the very same place where we got our initial C-130s, but we upgraded our C-130s such that they are currently having systems that the ones that we will receive. We have sent a team to go and inspect the ones that were offered to us, and we have started the process of finalizing that offer, such that we have done an appreciation to say, when we bring them into service, what is it that is required in terms of aligning them with the rest of the C-130s that we currently use, because the avionics, there isn't much that will be required for upgrading, except that we have already made inroads in terms of the seats that are currently with our C-130. So we will pursue it. I take it that we will soon manage to get the C-130s that our friendly country had offered us. It is a bilateral engagement, and I would like to say we appreciate that in realizing that we also are involved in almost two fronts, both in the DRC and in Mozambique, the need to have a lift. And they came to our show and say, as friends, this is what we can assist you with. We may not have much, but we will give you this C-130s, and country to country, we will then receive. We will let you know as soon as they're on the show. We are not shy to say this is what we are bringing in this, and as a good gesture from our partners. So yes, indeed, the US had offered us those aircrafts, and we're looking forward to bringing them in and put them in line with the rest of the aircrafts that we have currently. We have a number of projects that we have embarked in terms of the prime mission equipment. I may not be able to enumerate each one of them at the moment. I just had to deal with the two that you have raised. I think it will suffice to say the South African National Defence Force is on a path to rejuvenate both personnel and prime mission equipment. Thank you.
Thank you very much from the Chief, the panel members. So thank you very much. Before we conclude, I'm going to request the Chief of the South African Army for a vote of thanks. And then when the Chief of the South African Army is finished, members of the media, we have prepared a light lunch for you. And then when we are finished, then the rest of the delegation will go to the holding area where we were before we came in here. Chief of the Southern Army, sir, please.
Allow me, Chief, without having to say much, to say that I'm rather in a very difficult and easy position as I stand here. Starting from the last word said by the program director, I'm standing between yourselves and what the Chief of the Navy is about to offer to you. So I'm not intending to cause any harm between that relationship. But the most easy one, sir, would to say that in the presence of the Chief, allow me to say my task is quite easy. I could have done it even much more easier by just saying thank you all on behalf of the Chief and move away from the stage. Let me start off with the Chief of the South African National Defence Force, the Commander of the Armed Forces, who has a very uneasy assignment of leading the brave who dares to go where others fail to go. I'm saying the task is so uneasy, sir, to you because there is a clear constitutional mandate of ensuring that you protect the territorial integrity of this beautiful country of ours, the land, the seas, and the skies. I must thank you, sir, that you have led us to a point that this particular ceremony, significant and historic it has become, that during your introductory remark, you have articulated the historical background so well, so that everybody and all the members that are here understand exactly where is it coming from, where are we, and what to expect. Allow me to thank you, sir, not only by sticking to the mandate, by also defining your belief that the Defence Force is a people's defence force. Allow me to thank Sea Navy for hosting the ceremony. And I must say that I want to thank you up until today and in anticipation for ensuring that you define the true meaning of what it means that the Defence Force is brought closer to the people of this country and that it becomes a people's defence force. Allow me to thank the chaplain who, during his blessings, reminded us to understand better the meaning of being a servant. And being a servant, you become unconditional without any expectation. But because you understand the meaning of purpose, and our purpose in translation, it is with our lives. Allow it to say again to the panel, for eloquently responding to the questions that were posed to you in the manner that you did, to define the purpose of who we are and why we are here, so that it should be well understood, not only by those in attendance, but by the ordinary South Africans through the help of our media. In essence, I'm trying to say to our journalists, thank you for being here. Thank you for being the bridge between the South African National Defence Force and the people of this country. And thank you for ensuring that the wisdom that has been shared through the wealth of knowledge that has been led by the Chief of the South African National Defence Force will be of value to our people, even those who are not able to be here. Allow me to say further, wena kaNdaba ngicela ngikuvumele ngikubonge. It is great custom and tradition that when you arrive esibayeni senye indoda or umuzi, that the way you have said it so well, the way you have articulated in the manner that you did of welcoming us into Mhlathuze municipality, where you have clearly said that your arms are open for us as a form of blessing to the Defence Force. That on its own, siyakubonga wena kaNdaba, with your entire staff and councillors that might not be here. To inzala abantu, in the tradition of those who have stood here before me, not only because of it is the 14th today, because after the local mayor chief was addressing us, the eagle said to me, he has noted this day so well, it is an indication and affirmation that we will lale khaya. So he was saying, you have said it so well. So to all my colleagues that are here, to ensure that Chief lapha siyolala khona, allow me to say happy Valentine's to you and for being the rock that has kept us to be what we are today. To those who might not be visible with unlettered names, thank you for ensuring that as we galvanize and stand behind the commander of the armed forces, that we have traveled this path up until today. I'm saying again, as we move into the community outreach program, Dagamdutwa, on behalf of your men and women, thank you for bringing us so closer to our people, for demystifying that our presence always, it's about fear, but for translating it, that we are a people's force that also cares, that loves, that makes a difference where it matters most. To all of us, allow me to thank you for not going further and dwelling into the other part that I've said, standing between you and what the Sea Lion is about to offer, and to say thank you for being such a good audience. And thank you for posing such good questions. And thank you to our panel for responding in the manner that they've responded. May God bless you. I thank you.
Allow me to say thank you, Chief of the South African Army, for your closing remark. Chief of the South African Army, thank you for your closing remark. I truly appreciate it. Thank you very much
for spending the whole day with us. We don't take it lightly. We truly appreciate it. May we please rise while the chief and the panel withdraw, please. The members of the media and some members of the uniform members, the light lunch has been prepared outside.